At dawn upon the heights of Rojagoha, the sun poured gold upon towering walls, as the mighty kingdom of Magadha awoke in strength and splendor.
And the kingdom Visara, the land prospered, the army stood strong, and the people dwelt in peace.
Yet within the heart of the sovereign remained an unfulfilled yearning to find a true teacher, one who could illuminate the way of righteousness, so that the kingdom might endure not only by the power of arms, but by wisdom and compassion. Whispers spread through the hills of Vulture Peak of a young ascetic, noble in bearing, serene in presence, whose eyes shone like stars, leading a company of monks in quiet dignity.
His words, it was said, fell like cool rain upon parched earth, reviving the hearts of all who listened.
These rumors reached the ears of the king, stirring both curiosity and hope.
And so, destiny brought them face to face. On the tranquil slope of the sacred mountain, veiled in drifting clouds, the Buddha sat in stillness, unmoving as a flame untouched by wind.
King Bimbisara approached, his royal robe gleaming in the morning sun.
It is wonderful to meet you, King Bimbisara.
The world seemed to hold its breath.
Holy
Their eyes
One?
met one, a ruler long
I have
accustomed
heard
to power,
much
the
about
other,
your teachings.
a teacher who had touched the highest truth. The king spoke. What is it you seek upon this path?
And where do you intend to lead mankind?
The Buddha smiled, his voice resonant as a bell across the forest. I seek no power, nor do I long for
Welcome,
fame. I seek
King
the path that
Bimbisara.
ends suffering.
I would open a way to
Your
a
presence
society not
here
bound
is
by
a
desire,
testament to
nor
your
darkened by
earnest
hatred,
quest for
but a
truth.
life shaped by compassion and wisdom.
The words struck the king's heart like fire melting stone.
At first, he tested the sage with questions of governance, of human nature, of order in society. Yet the more he asked, the clearer
How
it
can a
became.
king rule
The man
justly
before him
and
was no
maintain
mere
order
ascetic.
in a
He was
world
the
of
master he
constant
had long
change?
awaited.
In that
The
solemn
path
hour,
to liberation
King
lies
Bimbisara
not
cast
in
aside pride and bowed low before the Buddha.
There, beneath the trees of Vulture Peak, before the astonished eyes of his court, he offered his pledge. Stay, Lord, in Magadha with your Sangha. I will protect and uphold you.
Let this land be the ground where your teaching may grow and spread to all people.
At that moment, history turned a new page. The pledge of a wise king became the seal of legitimacy for a wise teacher.
From then on, the Dharma was no longer the voice of a solitary ascetic, but a truth carried by royal power and planted deep within the soil of society.
As sunset bathed Vulture Peak in golden light, two great figures stood united, one a king, one a teacher. Their meeting became the foundation for 20 years of the Buddha's mission, where personal awakening would begin to transform the life of a nation, and through it, the world.
In the prosperous city of Rojagoha, where schools of thought clashed like waves upon the sea, two names shone brightest: Sariputta, whose wisdom cut sharper than a blade, and Moggallana,
Master,
steadfast
your
as a mountain
faculties
and
are
new.
serene.
They triumphed in debates,
Your
their
complexion
voices
is
echoing
pure
like
and
thunder
bright.
across the plains.
If I
Yet
might
within,
ask,
Their hearts
what
remained
is your
hollow like
doctrine?
wanderers in the night, longing for a guiding star.
One morning, in the
Who is
crowded
your
marketplace, Sariputta paused.
Before
My
him walked a
teacher
monk,
is the Buddha.
silent, serene, his eyes bright as starlight, his presence calm as a still autumn lake. No words, no arguments, yet dignity radiated from his every step.
The great debater was struck still, compelled to ask, "Who is your teacher? What teaching gives you such peace?" The monk folded his hands, his voice resonant as a bell through the forest. "My teacher is the Buddha. He teaches, all things arise from causes and cease when causes end.
To see dependent arising is to see the path of liberation." A single phrase, yet it struck Sariputta like lightning
The
splitting the night.
path to
After years
enlightenment
adrift in a
is
sea of
often fraught
philosophers,
with
at last
trials.
he glimpsed the shore.
This is the truth.
He rushed to Moggallana, the companion of
we
his
must
soul.
go
All
seek
through
the
the night,
Buddha.
they spoke
Yes,
not in rivalry,
we must.
but in a shared hunger for truth. The fire of debate was transformed into the flame of longing.
Complex doctrines fell silent before a truth so simple, yet so deep, dependent, arising the path to freedom. At dawn, their eyes met, alike with the same resolve. This is the path. We must seek this teacher, no longer masters of argument, but pilgrims of truth. They set out together, carrying the weight of destiny.
Upon the slopes of Vulture Peak, beneath an ancient tree, the Buddha sat in stillness like the moon casting light upon a darkened night. When Saripurta approached, the scholar who once commanded crowds now bowed his gaze in awe.
The truth he had sought now sat before him, silent and unmoved.
With reverence burning in his heart, Moggallana fell to his knees.
No longer the immovable mountain of debate, he became a humble seeker, ready to lay down pride before wisdom greater than his own. Moments later, Saripurta too lowered himself to the earth.
His face trembled with awe, yet shone with release. The master debater, who once silenced countless voices, now found freedom in surrender. The heavens seemed to hold their breath.
Beneath the sacred tree, before the watching monks, two great minds bowed as disciples. From that day, Saripurta became the foremost in wisdom, Moggallana the foremost in spiritual power.
Two mountains of philosophy transformed into wings that carried the Buddha's teaching far and wide.
Along the dusty road to Kapilavastu, the evening sun cast long shadows behind the Sangha. At the front walked the Buddha majestic, calm, steady as a deep river.
Behind him, monks strode in silence, their feet touching the earth, arms bowls at their sides.
Word spread like fire through the city. Prince Siddhartha has returned, not in jeweled robes of royalty, but in the humble saffron cloth, like morning light shining into every heart. Within the splendid palace, King Sattardhana sat heavy with thought. His heart was torn like a sky split before the storm. The son he had hoped would inherit the throne had returned instead as a wandering monk. Pride swelled in him, yet it was pierced by the wound of disappointment. In the hall of pillars, beneath drums of ceremony,
Why did you
father
abandon
and
the
son
throne?
met. The king's voice broke the silence. My
This
son,
path
why did you
ends
abandon the
suffering
throne
at its
and forsake
root.
the kingdom for this path?
Tell
The Buddha
me,
smiled,
what
his
have you
voice clear
learned?
as a bell across the
I
chamber.
have learned the
Father,
path to
a
true
throne can rule a
peace.
land.
But this path cannot prove the suffering of all beings. These words felt like thunder, echoing through the core, striking every heart that listened.
Queen Gautami wept.
Before her eyes was no longer the son she once cradled, but a teacher who had risen beyond the bonds of blood. The royal family looked on in awe to he who was once thought last had returned as a bearer of light.
Their hearts quivered, mingled with sorrow, wonder, and reverence. The king lowered his gaze. Within him, pride wrestled with reverence, doubt with devotion. In the stillness of that chamber, the strength of worldly power was humbled before a higher truth. The next morning, the Buddha and his monks walked silently through the streets of Kapilavastu. Their steps were measured, their pulse empty yet full of dignity. Citizens bowed in reverence, their city transformed by the quiet presence of those who sought no wealth but carried boundless peace. Suddenly, a child rushed forward. It was Rahula, eyes shining with innocence and resolve. He lifted
Let
his
me
face to his
follow
father
you.
and spoke with trembling voice, "Father, let me go with you." The court gasped. The simple words of a child pierced deeper than the sharpest blade. The Buddha bent low,
Father,
placing his gentle
I
hand
want to
on Rahula's
follow your
head. His
path.
gaze was filled with love,
I
yet steady
understand,
as a
my
mountain.
son.
The crowd watched in silence as bloodline and dharma became one.
A prince was no longer heir to a throne, but to the path of awakening.
Thus, the palace of Kapilavastu, once the echo of worldly power, became soil for the seed of dharma.
Some royals donned the monk's robe, others took refuge as lay disciples.
From that day, king and Sangha were not opposed, but bound together by compassion and wisdom.
As sunset poured gold upon the city walls, history was changed.
The Buddha's return was not merely reunion, it was the opening of a gate, where an entire kingdom stepped toward liberation.
Within the splendid halls of Kapilavastu, where shaky princes thrived in laughter and brilliance, a quiet figure always followed behind.
Life is
It was a
about
parley,
making
the barber,
choices.
hands skilled in grooming royal hair. yet eyes that hinted at a yearning far beyond his station. In the realm of glittering power, he was but a grain of dust unseen, unheard, unnoticed.
News spread of the Buddha's
We shall
teaching,
follow this
echoing through
path.
the land.
The princes gathered, hearts stirred. We shall renounce the palace and follow him to truth. The vow rang like thunder in the chambers.
Yet before
I
their
will
departure,
go
they turned
to
the
seek a
party,
way to
handing him
end
their
all
garments. Wear
suffering.
these, walk ahead of us, so the people will not follow.
And if you can, take refuge before we do. What seemed a ruse became destiny. Trembling, a party held the garments of royalty. His feet, once accustomed only to following, now stepped forward. Tears welled, yet he did not falter. Each step toward the Buddha was a blow against the chains of caste. At last, before eyes radiant with compassion, the party knelt and offered his heart to the path. In that moment, the war between noble and low was shattered. Soon the princes arrived. They beheld an unheard of sight. Bapali, once their servant, now clad in the saffron robe. Without protest, they knelt beside him, pressing their brows into the dust at his side. In that silence, royal blood bowed before the absolute equality of the Dharma. This was no longer about a barber. It was thunder breaking the order of the world. The Buddha sat beneath the ancient tree, gazed steady as the still moon.
He saw no servant, no prince, but only seekers of truth. Before him, all ranks dissolved, and the field of compassion stretched wide and boundless.
The saffron robe now rested on Yuki's shoulders.
His face glowed with awe and humility.
The princes, once proud, now bent low, their pride dissolved in reverence. What had been hierarchy was now brotherhood. From that day, Apali was no longer a palace attendant. The Buddha entrusted him with the preservation of the discipline, making him the Sangha's first guardian of law. The hands that once held scissors now shaped the purity of the monastic order. Patient as a gardener trimming each branch, Apali tended to the rules of the Sangha. Through his diligence, the garden of the Dharma grew green and clear, unmarred by weeds, shining in order and harmony. No throne is greater than wisdom. No lineage is higher than humility. In the light of the Buddha's teaching, all stand equal princes and barbers alike, and in party stepping before royalty. History proclaimed timeless truth. The Dharma belongs not to one class, but to all humankind. In Rajagoha, where palaces cast shadows over bustling markets, power and trade roared like twin rivers. From this grandeur emerged two men of destiny, bound by one flame in their hearts. Ivaka, the abandoned child of the city gates, rose to fame through unmatched skill, his trembling hands becoming instruments of healing. And Anathapindika, the wealthy merchant, measured no treasure by gold, but by a heart of boundless compassion for the poor. His name echoed through the city. He healed princes and paupers alike, hailed as the golden hands of Rajagoha. Yet his heart still asked, is there a cure for the root of suffering? Meanwhile, far away, Anathapindika heard of the Buddha. With unwavering faith, he journeyed long roads to hear the voice of the awakened one. Each word fell like nectar into his soul. He knew this was the path the world had waited for. Without hesitation, Anathapindika offered his fortune. He spread gold across the garden of Prince Jayatira, buying the land for a monastery. This act became immortal legend. Thus arose Jetavana, a sanctuary of lotus ponds and green groves, where the Dharma could flourish. Side by side, Ivaka devoted his art and compassion, becoming physician to the Sangha, caring for the Buddha and the monks with tireless service.
I
One
wish
man with
to
wealth,
meet the
one
great
with healing
teacher.
Together, they became the twin wings of the Sangha. Anathapindika, like a golden mountain laying foundation. Ivaka, like a flowing stream that restores life.
I will
A
find
patron
a way
building
to
shelter,
acquire
and
it for
healer
the
sustaining
Buddha.
strength both carried the Dharma forward.
Every step of monks across Jetavana's soil, every sigh of relief from the sick whom Hevika healed, bore the marks of their devotion. Compassion took shape not only in words of the teacher, but in the hands and hearts of those who served. Jetavana became more than a place. It was a living symbol of harmony of wisdom joined with compassion, of wealth joined with sacrifice. It was the ground where the Sangha grew strong, nourished by unseen guardians. Hevika and Anathapindika are different in origin, one from poverty, the other from wealth, met in the Dharma as equals. Two paths converged in one purpose, to carry the Buddha's light deep into society.
No throne is stronger than compassion, no treasure greater than selfless service. Through these men, history proclaimed, the Dharma does not survive on wisdom alone, but on love freely given. In the chronicles of time, Hevika and Anathapindika stand as enduring pillars.
One healed the body, the other nurtured the foundation. Together, they proved when love and wisdom walk side by side, the Sangha becomes unshakable and its light shines across the ages. Savatthi, the mighty capital of Kosala.
Towering walls, bustling markets, and music from the royal court echo across the land.
King Parsenadi, a seasoned ruler and master of strategy, surveys society as if it were a vast chessboard.
Yet within the golden glow of his throne, a quiet question lingers. How can he guard his people from the shadows of greed and anger? News of the Buddha resounds through the kingdom.
The king summons him to the jewel court, intent on testing this new teacher.
But as the Dharma flows like the toll of a great bronze bell,
We speak
every
of the
word strikes
four
at the very
noble
roots of human
truths.
suffering.
The grand hall falls silent. The monarch, once accustomed to
Indeed.
commanding all, bows
King
inwardly before a
Parsenadi.
wisdom beyond power.
Does the
In
Buddha
that
say
stillness,
that
King
all
Parsenadi feels the weight
things
of his
are
crown.
painful?
The throne, the armies, the laws
I
none
do not
hold the
say
key to
that.
peace. Yet before him sits one who speaks with the strength of compassion, pointing not to conquest, but to liberation. For the first time, the king sees a path greater than empire. Within the city also shines Visakha, a noblewoman of wealth and unmatched
The fruit
intellect.
is
In open
eaten by
dialogue,
those
she
who
speaks of the
desire the
Dharma with
fruit.
clarity sharp as a blade and gentleness flowing like water.
Her words astonish the court.
Wisdom
blending
is the
reason and
greatest
compassion.
treasure,
From that day
King
forward,
Pasenadi,
Visakha becomes the foremost
for
their
it
patroness,
lights the path
offering not
to
only her
true
fortune,
happiness.
but also her wisdom and heart.
Visakha's devotion moves beyond gifts of gold. She pledges her life to the Dharma, safeguarding the Sangha with unwavering resolve. To her, the treasure of compassion outweighs all earthly jewels, and her name resounds as the great mother of the faithful.
One ruler, one laywoman,
Two pillars rising from different paths, now joined in a single cause.
on the streets of Savatthi, the Sangha walks in serene arms round. The king ensures order with his authority, while Visakha offers food with her compassion.
Together, they create a living symphony. Wisdom, kindness, and power in harmony.
Citizens watch in awe as rule might bows beside humble devotion. In this union, the Dharma takes root not only in palaces and temples, but in the hearts of the people. Each offering, each reverent step, weaves the Sangha deeper into the fabric of society. Under the crimson glow of sunset, Savatthi shines as the beacon of the Dharma. The king's authority shelters it, Visakha's compassion nourishes it, and the Buddha's wisdom illuminates it. This is no mere city, it becomes the living center of a spiritual revolution. From their devotion, Savatthi rises as the radiant heart of Buddhism. Here, the Dharma does not remain hidden in forests, but flows into the lives of the people. King Barsenadi and Visaka are no longer bound by titles of monarch and patroness.
They stand as twin pillars of the Sangha, raising a new era where wisdom and compassion shape the destiny of society.
In the forests of Kusala, Terra bore a name Angulimala.
His sword, his cries, and the gruesome garland of severed fingers struck fear into every heart.
His very presence turned silence into dread, and the forest became a kingdom of nightmares. Each step he took stained the earth crimson, branches broken, bodies fallen, whispers of despair filled the woods. The land itself seemed to mourn beneath the weight of his violence.
Yet into this darkness walked the Buddha serene, unshaken, radiant in saffron robes.
As Angulimala charged with rage, the contrast was stark. Fury against stillness, hatred against boundless peace. Stop! Roared the outlaw, but the Buddha turned, his eyes like a moon piercing the night.
Stopped.
I have already stopped.
Only
It is you who
have
have not stopped. These words rang out like thunder, cutting through the chains of madness. Angulimala faltered.
Sweat poured, his hands trembled, his breath grew heavy. For the first time, the terror of Kusala felt powerless not before armies, but before compassion's truth.
The sword slipped from his grasp, kneeling upon the earth. Angulimala wept before the Buddha's steady gaze. Hatred melted into sorrow, and sorrow into repentance.
The forest that once echoed with screams now bore witness to silence and light.
Clothed now in saffron, Angulimala rose not as a murderer, but as a monk. His past, heavy as iron, was laid down. His future, guided by wisdom, began beneath the Buddha's hand of compassion. In villages, those who once trembled at his name now watched in awe.
The feared outlaw walked calmly among monks, his bowl empty, but his heart full. Whispers turned from fear to reverence.
Under silver moonlight, Angulimala sat in meditation, peaceful at last.
From blot and terror to compassion and calm, his story became a living hymn, an eternal testament to the power of wisdom and mercy to transform even the darkest soul.
Here,
In the
eat some
turbulent winds
rice,
of
my
history,
friend.
one gentle figure shines, Ananda, cousin and devoted attendant of the Buddha, not merely a shadow at his side. He became the ears and eyes of the Sangha, faithfully holding every word of truth.
When plague spread across the land, despair fell heavy upon the people.
Into the very heart of danger.
Hold
armed
on,
a step,
you are safe
with a
now.
steady hand, he wiped the sweat from the sick, offering rice to those near death.
To the eyes of the people, he was no longer just an attendant, he was compassion itself, walking among them. Yet trials were not only in sickness, but in slander.
Whispers of a false crime stirred doubt and suspicion, casting shadows upon the Sangha. The streets of Savathi trembled with rumor and unrest. But Ananda stood still, calm as the eye of a storm,
His quiet faith was unbroken, his trust unwavering.
and in time, the truth rose like the sun, scattering the clouds of deceit and silencing the voices of doubt. In the royal court, the Sangha was put to the test.
Ministers watched with questioning eyes, while the
Buddha sat serene, a beacon of peace.
Ananda's calm presence bore witness. Truth needs no weapon, only steadfast light.
When the conspiracy collapsed, silence filled the hall.
In the stillness, faith grew stronger. The Sangha emerged not weakened, but radiant, purified by trial and confirmed by truth. Then came the
May I
story of
join?
Sunita, the humble street sweeper, long scorned by society. With trembling voice, he sought refuge in the Dharma. Ananda was there, gentle as a brother, guiding him forward with kindness.
Step by step, Sunita walked into the Sangha, no longer bound by shame. At his side, Ananda's calm strength lifted him beyond his past, into a future of dignity and peace. Through plague, slander, and the breaking of caste, Ananda stood like a lamp that never burned out.
Not a blazing flame, but a steady light in the storm, keeping faith alive for countless hearts.